Well, at least I got a heads up this time. Hi, everybody. I hope everybody's having a great Saturday. It is cool here. You can tell that winter is on its way. The trees are almost bare. We know this because my husband and my son picked up all their leaves yesterday. Day before? Yeah, day before. So yeah, they've put in an extraordinary amount of work. I don't know how many bags of leaves they
25.
did. Is that all? 25? It's usually around 40, isn't it?
Usually.
Yeah.
There's still another tree to let
That's true.
to shed.
They're almost bare anyway. So fall is coming to a close here on the East Coast. So I figured one more autumnal themed project was in order for this month. So we're going to be working on this piece. It's called Fall Bittersweet Welcome. I know that bittersweet is a common fall plant. It produces those beautiful yellow, bright yellow to bold orange, even deep orangey red, scarlet toned berries. Depending on the type of bittersweet plant it is, whether it's a vine or the bush, it produces some really beautiful berries. Even after the leaves have fallen, these gorgeous orange berries still remain. The most common one for us here on the East Coast, we have two varieties here on the East Coast that we see the most often, and one is called the American bittersweet, which is a bit more woody, less of a vine, more of a bush. And then we have the nightshade variant, which is the, believe it or not, deadly nightshade, which is perhaps one of the most common. We do see that one around here quite a bit. And that one is more of a vine type or a low bush type of bittersweet. So they both end up with an absolutely gorgeous, vibrant orange to red or orange to scarlet berry. And they're in unique clusters, really bold, heavy clusters of berries. And we see a lot of birds and wildlife around them here on the East Coast. So someone had mentioned that it would make a nice piece to have something with bittersweet, and I tended to agree. So now we're going to be working on this piece today. And then to give it a bit of a rustic flair, I threw in a little bit of buffalo check, that 1-inch buffalo check. Renee's giving me the big old thumbs up.
Buffalo check!
So I put that in for our background. Gives it a nice rustic flair. And then I chose a really elegant script font called Melanie to do the lettering. And the pattern actually contains both English and French variations of welcome. So that's already in there. So if you guys are anxious to get started, I am too. But before we do, let's talk about giveaways for today. We have 3 Dynasty Faux Squirrel brush sets to give away. Also, we have some Tombow goodies included in there. And of course, we always put in a Create bag and some other fun stuff from both Renee and I as well. So we've got 3 of those to give away. To get in on the giveaways, all you have to do is participate in the chat. Hit the like button, the subscribe button, whether you're on Facebook or YouTube, and your name will go on the wheel at the end of today's live, and you'll be able to have a chance to win one of those 3 giveaways. So if you are ready to get started on Fall Bittersweet Welcome, so am I. Now, bittersweet welcome, whatever. What?
It's Gotcha Day.
It is Gotcha Day, right?
Yeah.
Yep. I posted earlier in the week on Facebook that,
Today is Gotcha Day.
today is Gotcha Day. Today is the day that we picked up maize. So it's been a whole year. I can't believe that.
Whole 365 days.
A whole 365 days. I have the bite marks, the odd scar. Our little piranha has made herself right at home.
Not so much a piranha now.
Hello, Belinda. No, she has dialed back on the people chewing. Yes, Linda, I did get your message.
Right. I gotta go pick up dog food and dog paraphernalia.
Okie dokie, you do you. We'll see you in a little while. So the surface I'm working on is this. I use this surface all the time. I love this one. I just find it it really is, it's a very general purpose type surface. This plaque can be used to put in a stand, or it can go on hung on a door. You can wire it, add ribbon. It's just a really versatile little surface. I like the shape of it, the size of it. It has great functionality, and it's kind of pretty when it's all done. Oh, thank you. You brought me coffee.
There you go.
I wanted a sweet and creamy, so he brought me one. So, this is the one done in English. I really love this script. I think it's very loose and elegant. It's very pretty. And it's a nice contrast to this very rustic background. And then with the bittersweet in there, I just think it's a very pretty piece. The French one is up in my entryway. And then we just added a little bit of a gold border just with a gold paint pen. I think this one has that nice combination of rustic and distressed and the elegant lettering. I just think it's a very pretty piece. And for fall, this is so simple. This is an easy paint. And the results are really, really pretty. So, and I wanted to show you these. These little, I'm going to post the link a little later on. These little stands are perfect for displaying this piece. So I have them. Look how pretty that is. Little wrought iron thing. I found these on Amazon and they're like 4 for $20. They were great. So I'll post the link for those a little later on. So the stencil that we're using for this one is the 1-inch buffalo check. And I broke my stencil this morning. I got a little whoopsie right here. So I'm going to have to take a little care with this one. So I just position my stencil like so. And the color we're using for this background is asphaltum. Hi, Floy. Nice to have you with us. And Molly Ann and Kathy Gunther. And Chris Neese. Hello, Chris. Oh my goodness, everybody. And Bonnie Dixon from Arizona. So we're going to use asphaltum. And we're going to stencil with this buffalo check. Now, I'm going to be a little heavy-handed with it. I want this to be a little darker, but not necessarily fully opaque, if you catch my drift. So, circular fashion, change directions frequently so that you get a nice even distribution of paint. Doesn't have to be perfect by any stretch of the imagination, but that brush is not cutting it today. I'm going to switch to a slightly different, there we go. Every once in a while, I just can't seem to get that brush to work. I don't know why. Today's the day. So, and I want to get this done quickly, so I've got way too much paint in this brush, but we'll make it work. So when I say we're not really looking for a perfect finish, I'm absolutely mean it. We just want to get that pattern on there. And it does not have to be fully opaque, does not have to be perfect. It can be irregular. We just want to get a nice clear representation of that stencil, that's all. So this stencil has seen its last project. Time for a new one. So, okay, not too bad. See, I broke my stencil today. I'm going to turn this around. And then line it up so that things are straight and level, being the most important thing. Straight and level. They don't have to be perfect, but They should be straight and level. There's nothing worse than something that has a lot of straight lines and all of a sudden is going uphill or downhill, or they don't match up, especially if you're working on a surface that has that level of continuity, like going on a curved surface, trying to stencil it. If you don't get it straight, there will be a point where they don't line up. So take a little time to make sure that the stencil is properly lined up before you continue to work. Otherwise, you're going to be trying to fix something that you can't fix. So I've got buffalo check everywhere. So that's essentially what we want. We want that, a nice clear representation of the pattern. Clear plastic. I use a T-square as well, especially on large surfaces to make sure that things are nice and straight. So you want a clear representation of the pattern, but it does not have to be perfect. So I've got mine finished. Now, the one thing I do like to do, especially on this, is when you're putting something down, if you run your hand over it, you can actually feel the pattern slightly. So this is when you're going to take one of those sanding sponges, your favorite, ultra fine or a finishing sander, and you're just going to give it a light sanding. And this will give you a nice smooth finish. Just like that. Now, if you really like the heavily distressed look, which I do, I'm a fan, you can take your sander and aggressively sand the edges like this and wear through the paint right down to the wood so that you've got these nice little distressed areas showing through. You can do that all the way around. Kathy, that's also an excellent way to do that, is to sand. If you want to smooth out that feeling, a brown paper bag works beautifully. So I'm just going to pay particular attention to my corners. I like my corners distressed. That's a me thing. Distress the edges. Now, I get a little goofy when I'm doing the corners. I really like that, heavily worn look. I'm going to be using a fair amount of dark paint on the outside edges, so it doesn't really stand out all that much, but I think it's just a me thing that I have to do it. I like to do it. So I'm just going to distress my edges a little bit, and then I'm going to wipe off the dust. And we're going to use a little bit of asphaltum, heavily thinned. And I'm going to brush heavily thinned asphaltum over everything. And again, neatness doesn't count for this. This is just going to tone everything a little. It also sort of brings everything back. Remember all of those, scratch marks and things like that. Just brings everything back to a nice uniform finish. So just a light wash, thinned asphaltum. Also brings that fieriness down a little bit on that orange. Old piece of denim works well too. Yes, it does. Old heavy cotton or old heavy linen, it actually works very well. You're only just removing a very thin bit, so it, brown paper bag, finishing sander, any one of those things works exceptionally well. Cotton twill, a heavy twill will do it too. Here we go. So the next color we're going to work with is this one, soft black. I really love this color, especially when we're working with all of these earthy tones. I'm a big fan of soft black. So a little bit of soft black. Now you can float the edges with a nice big angled shader. Or you can do it my way. I'm going to take a piece of shop towel and I'm going to make myself a high-tech applicator. So there's my high-tech. I'm going to wet that with a little bit of water. And I'm going to pick up a little bit of my Jus Sonia Fast Dry Glaze. Just enough to make the applicator wet, but not drippy. You don't want that. And then I'm going to pick up a little bit of soft black. And this always scares everybody when I do this, but it actually works very well. So I'm going to, in a circular fashion, apply a little bit of soft black to the outside edge of my sign, like so. I love soft black for this. I like that it helps create this very warm and very deep shadow along the outside edge. So I'm going to dry that. Oh, damn. Yeah. Using a soft cloth like this, everybody does it differently. It all depends on how much pressure you put on. I don't use a ton of pressure on it. So I get that nice dark border. So essentially what I'm aiming for is a darker outside edge and then this lighter portion in the center. And it doesn't get done in one go. This takes a couple of layers till you get that depth. It's all about the layers. So if you're more comfortable doing this by floating, by all means. There's numerous ways to get this dark shadow on the outside edge. I'm just very fond of this particular one. So you can see that you get more of a gradient. You get a nice gradual. I love this look. I love that you see the brush marks. I love that you see all of that distressed bit. It appeals to me. I like those heavily aged things. So at this point, you can pick and choose where you want to make things deeper or darker. And I want them a little deeper up top here. And I like them a little deeper in the corners. But that's a me thing. Again, how dark it gets is entirely up to you. You stop when you like it. That's the thing. You stop when you like it. I like it heavier. I like it darker. The aged thing, I'm a fan. I like the distressed, heavily aged look. There we go. So I'm going to dry this. I think that's enough of the soft black. If you're finding it's a little streaky and not as dark, let it dry and then put on another coat. And less liquid, a little more paint, less liquid. There we go. There should be just enough liquid in the brush to help move the paint. Look how pretty. but not so much that it just slides around. So now that I've got that on, I'm going to put another coat of thin Dashvaltum because I love how it tones everything. I like the warmth of this. I like how it brings everything into balance, tone-wise. Just like that. The paint could be the issue, Peg. A little less glaze, a little more paint. You'll find the balance that works for you. It does take you a little bit of time. Hi, Cindy. Deb, I buy shop towels from Costco. I get them in the big bale. I go through a lot of shop towels. So there we go. We have a nice uniform finish. So you want, before you try to trace and transfer this, you want to make sure this is good and dry. There's nothing worse than trying to transfer something and it doesn't want to because your surface is not completely dry. Hi, Donna. Now, this is how I line up the line drawing. I center it on the surface, and then I make sure that the top two lines meet up with the top edges here, and tape it down. Love that. I'm doing the French one today. I just think it's pretty. I like the French lettering. That appeals to me. So I'm going to use some white graphite to trace this on, and I'm going to show you a really fun little trick for tracing berries. And I'm going to tape down my line drawing so it does not move because it drives me batty. Charmaine Bannister, hello, sweetie. Charmaine, I got to tell you, I absolutely love my tea infuser. It's so stinking cute. I showed him off to everybody. Look at my tea infuser. They all think I'm nuts. That's okay. Are bittersweet, mostly decorative. Some birds eat them. Certain birds eat them. They have been used medicinally over years. They have been. They've also been used for nefarious purposes. So I'm tracing the leaves first. I went with a rounded leaf simply because I kind of liked it better than I liked the shape. And I'm going to just loosely draw in some of the stems that connect these berries, just loosely, mind you. Because I'm going to show you a neat trick for tracing these berries. Comme ça. So these berries don't need to be perfect. I have a nifty little trick for them. So I've got berries and stems in. Pardon me. And then I'm going to move there. This one is a simple one. Quite honestly, this design is very, very simple. But it works very well. Fills up this space nicely, fills these corners nicely without being over the top. So I'm going to move. So let's talk about tracing those berries. The one thing that I found is that tracing anything that's circular, like berries, any type of round surface, if you are not tracing it using a round tool, they all tend up to be different sizes and different shapes. They end up looking like eggs. They have all sorts of weird and wonderful shapes by the time you're done. And there's very little you can do about that if you're doing them freehand. So I usually will find a circle maker or some sort of a drawing tool that I can use. Choose a circle that is as close to the size of the berry or whatever it is I'm tracing. And I use that to create those circles. And I found over the years that by doing that, then there's a great deal more consistency in the design and in your design work. And it's so easy to paint a circle that is actually a circle than to try and paint something that is not quite round and make it look round. So I use that little shape maker tool to make my circles. And I have found that that consistency makes a big difference in the quality of the painted piece. Easy peasy. Not to mention, makes this a whole lot faster. You know? Makes it so much simpler. There we go. I'm just looking at the chat. Everybody was commenting today on Patty Rawlinson retiring. I think that's fabulous. Patty's been around forever. I mean, I've known Patty for more than 20 years. And I've worked with her. She's just an awesome lady. Full of energy. But I know she's been looking forward to some time in her garden. Spending and dedicating some time to her garden. So I'm happy for her. I'm really excited that she's finally making that jump so that she can retire. Good for her. And then one more down in the corner. This little, using a tool like this, I'm a firm believer using a tool like this for tracing things really helps with the accuracy of transferring line drawings. And when you have accuracy, then your pieces are going to come out much better. Accurate line drawings are important. Make sure I got them all. I did. And I'm going to trace the lettering next. And that's also where this little tool comes in handy. Making sure that your lettering is level, straight and level when you're transferring things. But anytime there's straight vertical lines, Anytime that you have, defined horizontal lines, it is important that they be straight, especially in lettering. Now, in this particular one, we don't have too many vertical lines, and the ones that we do have a bit of a curve to them. So we don't really need a ruler so much for this one, but when you are placing your lettering, it is important that it not be going uphill or downhill. It is important that it be straight and level. So always a good idea to have a ruler handy to make sure that they're straight and level. Because otherwise you'll get it painted and then you'll be sitting at a table one day and look over at your piece and realize that your lettering is going uphill or downhill, and then that'll drive you insane. And I don't need to be driven insane. I'm close enough to walk. So, almost done. I have used shop towels for years. I've never seen the white ones here. I only ever see the blue. I've used them with a number of different mediums. I have had trouble with solvent bases, dissolving the dye in them, and then you end up with blue on something. But with acrylics, I haven't had an issue. So there we are. I think that this is a fun piece to paint. It's not a difficult paint. I think it takes longer to prep it than it does anything else. It's fun, and I have a couple of fun techniques for doing the berries. Hi, Judy. Okay, so let's have a quick look, make sure we get everything traced. Ta-ta-ta. That looks pretty good. I'm not worried about the border because we're going to put that in with a ruler and a gold paint pen. Here we go. Let's have a look. Amazon. Okay. Somebody needs a coffee, IV. Poor Deb. Oh, Andrew George, where do you get your decoupage papers and rice papers, please? I get them from a variety of locations. I have tons from Patricia Rollinson. I do like her stuff. Scrapbook.com is another one that I really like. Lately, I'm into using printables, so there's a lot that you can buy digital papers and use them for, but Scrapbook.com is one of my favorites, and there's a couple of others. I'll, when I get a chance, I will pop up the links to a couple of other sites. Hi, Mary. Renee went and got me a cup of coffee. It's one of those, it's called Sweet and Creamy. It's actually a mix, and it's yummy. It's an instant coffee, but it's so good. And it's still really hot. Wow. So we're going to paint the leaves first, just to get them out of the way. Does Decor still make snow text? Yes, they do. So I'm using a little bit of antique green or lush green. Either one will work just fine. And these leaves are pretty simple. So you can just simply base coat these with one or two coats of that lush green or antique green, 1 or 2 coats. And again, doesn't have to be perfect. We've got 3 other colors going on these leaves, so if they're not absolutely opaque, that's okay. I don't really worry about things being opaque because most of the time we're going to be putting other colors over top of them anyhow. Oh, this would be an easy one to adapt, Mary, for an ornament. Just break the pattern into individual pieces when you look at it. So think of this is one spray and this one is another spray and these two here. And then because of the way they're built, they can be put back to back. They can be, put over top of each other. There's all kinds of ways you could adapt this for an ornament. It'd be a super easy one to adapt. Just like that. Easy peasy. Raining in Tennessee. It's not raining here. We have a beautiful fall day today. It started out early today that it didn't look like it was going to be that nice, but winter is coming. Let's put it that way. So we've got antique green leaves. Super. 1 coat is all I got on there. It actually works so nicely, like that green, the antique green or the lush green. Those 2 colors work so beautifully with these rustic tones. They're just gorgeous. Oh, Mary, I'd be so anxious to see how you did with that bird of paradise. It's such a pretty piece. I love that one. Ooh, you have a high of 9 today, Karen. I think we're going to be at 12. Here we go. Now, if you wanted to change this up for, say, a Christmas theme, you'd simply change the color of the berries and maybe the color of the background. But I think this would be pretty as a Christmas design, too. It would be really pretty as a Christmas design. So, leaves are done. We're going to come back to that shape maker. You can tell which one I use the most because it's surrounded by paint. And I'm going to grab, I've got a small stencil brush. I'm going to show you a really quick trick. Because we're going to base coat these berries, we want them to be nice and bright against this background. You can do this with a stencil too. Going to use a little bit of warm white, if I can ever get it out of the bottle. Good gravy. The little hole in the cap is plugged. So I'm going to pick up a little bit of warm weight. I'm using a small stencil brush. This one is a 3/8. And I'm going to use this one, I think it's about a 1/4 inch circle right there. And I put it over top, like so. I had a little too much paint in the brush, but... So you're just going to stencil each of those circles, those little circles, using the shape maker. And put down a single coat of warm white. Easy peasy. Now, by putting down this base, it allows you to keep those berries nice and bright. They're not going to be, the colors that you put over top won't be influenced by the color underneath. Especially because we're using yellows and an orange. Those colors are quite transparent. So by having that little bit of white underneath, it gives them a little more brightness. And this is just such a fast way. I just realized I missed a berry. There we go. Such a fast way to get that base coat in there. So if you have a polka dot stencil with a circle that's roughly the same size as these berries, or if you have a set of shape makers like I do, or one of these little drafting tools, works like a hot damn. Just to stencil those little berries in. Instead of trying to base coat every single berry with warm white, this is just a quick and easy way and an accurate way to get those berries perfectly round. And it takes no time to get it done. Ta-da! Look at that. Easy peasy, right? I'm a firm believer that you use the tools that you have on hand to get the job done. Now, if you're doing stuff for bazaars and craft sales and things like that, this is a huge time saver. This will save you so much time. And you can do this with a variety of things. It might not be the berries. Maybe it's something else that, has a round shape or square shape. Break out one of your stencils and use it for this purpose. If it's going to speed up your process a little bit, then go for it. It allows you to replicate accurately specific shapes. It's the whole point of a stencil. Okay, Deb, here's the trick to that. When you're stenciling something like this, there should be very little paint in your brush. The brush should be almost dry. Better to have to reload it frequently than to try and clean up all of that extra paint. If you're getting paint on the back, it's because you've got too much paint in your brush. Just like so. Et voilà. Now, using a stencil is just a tool. You get a much more accurate end result by using a stencil. Look at that. Easy peasy. And if you use a little paint, a little too much like I just did, dry it and do it again. That way you save yourself the heartache. And you save yourself a whole bunch of time. Just like that. I love it. Berries galore. Super easy. Use the end of a dowel dipped in paint. Hey, yeah, that works great too. This time of year, I don't worry too much about hearing gunfire because it's hunting season. And we live on the edge of the woods, so we hear it. Besides, the gunfire is actually quieter than the geese. We have so many geese. Oodles and oodles of geese right now. Mm-hmm. Chocolate is a vegetable. I've never thought of it that way, but you are absolutely correct. Yeah, we do have shape makers on the website. There's a whole set of them for circles and squares and a variety, triangles and things like that. We do have them on the website. You find them in the M2 section of the website. Don't forget to use your coupon code. You've got one this week. Our elementary school had their fall fest this past week, so there's fireworks going off in the village, which is unusual because we don't usually have a lot of that. And we also had, start a hunting season, so you hear the odd gunshot, but because the woods are literally, start less than 100 yards from our house, so. And then there's nothing but walking trails and ATV trails and whatnot all over the place back here. So we get the odd hunter this time of year. But most people in this area, we do have rules that they have to be a certain distance away from any built up or areas. There we go. So we have a white base down for all of these berries. Works super well. It's just such an easy way to create, nice round berries. And it is a base color, like a support color or a prime that we're putting down. Now, the next color that I put on these berries is Sunset Gold. I really love this yellow. I wanted a high yellow, but I wanted something a little more opaque. So I'm using Sunset Gold. If you don't have it, you can also use saffron yellow. You just need a really bold yellow. Now, you can paint them by hand, or you can use the stencil technique to do this. I like the stencil technique. I just think it works really well. So I take my stencil brush and I pick up a little bit of that Sunset Gold and go right over top of the berry that I have already stenciled with white. And it just makes for nice, crisp, clean berries. So we need that bold yellow, that high acid yellow, that really high sunny yellow. That's going to give us that nice heat, all of that punch that we want. So this is, as I said, it's a very fast and easy way to paint these berries, to get this base coat element out of the way. But it's also really accurate. It gives you nice, crisp, consistent berries. And it makes your life a little bit easier. Not having to have a ton of time trying to get every single berry exactly the right size. So you can do it this way. We are actually going to paint berries after this step. I know what you're thinking. I'm gonna wipe off my stencil here. It's getting a little crusty. There we go. So that's how you base coat those berries. Super easy way to do it. Ooh, -1 in Timmins. Burr. It's a little nippy, Heidi. We got down to 0 last night. Oh, Robin R needs ideas for dinner. We're having penne regate. That's what we're having tonight. I had we had Italian vegetable soup last night. It was so good. A little different for a Friday. We usually have pizza or something like that. Last night I just didn't feel like pizza or junk food. So just put on a nice pot of Italian vegetable soup, a little bit of Italian sausage to give it some oomph. Lots of heavy cream. Oh, and I put my Christmas jam recipe up on my Facebook page this morning. And I also put the recipe for thumbprint cookies on there. So I will most definitely get that up on the website too. I think the Christmas jam recipe is up there. But 'tis the season. We'll start posting more recipes up in the next little while. And one of the girls actually tried making my carrot cake the other day. And it's such a good recipe. It's one of the best recipes I've ever seen for a carrot cake. It's quick, it's easy to do, and it's just a delightful cake. It's so good. And I have a great recipe for cream cheese icing too if you want that. It is a good recipe, especially if you've got company. And the one I posted the other day was the chocolate coffee cake. That one is so good. You can use dried fruit in that one too, and it's fabulous. So if you're not fond of, say, the pecans that are in it, you can switch that out for some dried fruit, like dried cherries or dried cranberry. Or you can use walnuts instead, whatever your preference is. It's a very easy recipe to adapt. Yes, Kathy, it's on my website. You can find the recipe for that carrot cake. It's great. Ooh, cornbread, yum. I like simple recipes, and that chocolate coffee cake is such a fast and easy one. Years ago, my mother had a cookbook, which I have now, and it was because back in the day when you were in the military, you did a fair amount of entertaining, and my mother had this recipe for coffee cake, and she said it was something that if you knew that you had people coming for coffee, if it was a last minute thing, you could literally have it in the oven inside of 10 minutes, and by the time you got yourself dressed up and presentable, or got the rest of the house organized or whatever, the cake was ready. And it was just such an easy one to make and serve in under an hour. It's just a really great coffee cake. And you could adapt it to a large number of preferences. So if you don't have chocolate chips, you could use shaved chocolate. Or if you didn't have chocolate at all, you could substitute it for something else. So you could switch it out, put dried cranberries or dried cherries, or, you could even put raisins if you wanted to. There were so many ways to adapt that cake, and it was fast and it was easy, and it came out perfect every single time. So and it was always a popular one, and you didn't need to have 150 fancy ingredients. You could just use what was in your pantry, and it is quite literally made with coffee. So there we go. So, pretty fast and easy way to base coat a piece is by using a stencil. Yes, Gail, the carrot cake recipe is on my site. And it's a very nice recipe. And it's not a difficult one, but it's very nice. Cheryl, are you talking to me? It's allergies. I've been struggling with my asthma today. Oh, goodness. You grew up in a bakery. That would be hard. Hey, Janet. Well, Heidi, I'm so glad you finally have an answer as to why you've been so ill. Knowing is half the battle. Okay, so we have berries. Oh, as I said, it's just asthma is allergy related, and really it's been a tough year for allergies. Not just for me, but for a lot of people. So it is what it is. I have oodles of medication to help me feel better, so I'm good. So we have leaves, we have berries. So we're going to start shading our berries, or our leaves, with a little bit of black green. Black green or plantation pine, and just a nice dark green. You just need a nice dark green. Oh, good grief. Oh, yeah. Hello.
Hello. Couldn't get puppy food.
You couldn't get puppy food? What?
Yeah, a bunch of stuff was taken off the shelves.
Oh.
Apparently, recall for salmonella and listeria.
Wow. Okay. So no puppy food? Oh, you needed kibble. Is that it?
No, not kibble.
Oh, the cans?
Cans.
Oh, wow. So did you get something else?
Yeah, I got a powdered dog food.
Okay.
So just add water.
Oh, all right. So we're going to shade these leaves at the base where they would join the stem with a nice tight little float of black green. So it's going to be darker up where it joins the stem, and then it'll fade out as it comes down the leaf. There's not a lot of these leaves, so it's a pretty simple one to do. And I found that by floating it, load your brush as if you're going to float, and then stand to the brush on its chisel edge and pull the color down like that. It's just the easiest way to do this. So chisel edge and then pull the color. There we go. And that way that float stays within that little V at the top of the leaf. And you get that nice dark float. There we go. So much like the U-shaped float that I usually use for holly leaves and things like that, same idea. It just keeps it nice and tight and gives it that nice pointed shading. There we are. Now we have a berry that actually overlaps the leaf, so we got to put a shadow under it. So make sure you bring the green up and under. Just like that. So Robin Storm, I guess, has hunters in her neighborhood and they're shooting stuff.
Oh, yeah?
And driving her dogs crazy. Maze doesn't seem to be affected by any of that. I mean, we had fireworks last weekend and she was just sort of whatever. I don't know. But a leaf blows up against the door. She loses her mind. Yep. So, almost done. We've just got a couple more leaves to do here. As I said, this is not a difficult piece to paint. This would be an ideal project for things like craft sales and whatnot, because there's not a ton of really difficult painting to do. A lot of it can be done with stencils. Hi, Carol. And Linda Salsini. Hello. Got a bunch of us just joining us. That's great. Hi, Mace.
What are you doing there?
You left the door open.
Did I?
You did so. Either that or she's figured out how to use that lever handle, which wouldn't surprise me. This dog is too much for TV. Yesterday, I have a Deco Earth stress ball sitting on my desk. Maze loves balls. And she spied it. And then she kept looking at me and then looking at the ball, looking at me and looking at the ball. And she really wanted the ball, but I wouldn't give it to her because it's nothing, it's not an appropriate toy for a dog. So, yeah, was sitting at my desk and she walked into the storeroom and stuck her head into one of the boxes with all of the crumpled paper and foam and whatnot that we use for packing boxes. She came out of the storeroom with a big wad of bubble wrap in her mouth, which she knew would get me away from my desk. So I ran over to the desk and ran from the desk to her to get the bubble wrap from her. I took it out of her mouth and I went and put it back in the storeroom. And when I came out of the storeroom, she was standing with her front legs on my desk, reaching for the ball. Little bugger distracted me. She's far too smart for her own good. Oh, Lucy. Oh. Okay, double check it all, Lucy, and then let me know. I'll be more than happy to send the files. It's not a problem. Amazing. She is beautiful. She is entirely too smart for her own good. I will tell you that right now. She knows how to get into trouble and stay in trouble. But she also knows how to outsmart us, which is not a good thing. So I'm highlighting the tip of each of these leaves with a little float of margarita. I just want the brighter green right at the edge, the very tip of each of these leaves. I like that little bit of light. Just a nice tidy float. Just gives these leaves a little bit of dimension. And it's an easy float. So far, the only brushes that I've used have been a stencil brush, number 2 rigger, and a 3/8 angled shader. And I love this little float of margarita right at the tip. And yes, she is too smart for our good. That's exactly it. You watch her in her training sessions and she's just like, good God. But in the house, she knows precisely where everything is. She knows where the peppers are kept. She loves, absolutely loves sweet peppers, like red and green peppers or red and yellow peppers. She loves those. And so I usually have a bag full of them cut into quarters or what have you, and put them in the freezer. So she knows that they're kept in the freezer. So she will sit by the freezer until you figure out what it is she wants. She is very smart. She plays with the cats. And, well, the cats are quite funny. The way they deal with her. Oh, a little bit of hand sanitizer and a piece of paper towel. We'll take that right off. I'm a big fan of hand sanitizer when it comes to cleaning stencils. It works like a hot damn. So, there's our highlight just at the tips of those leaves. Look how fast that comes together. So, just let me show you. Dirty Shade Maker. A little bit of hand sanitizer. This is just a microfiber cloth that I had kicking around. But that's it. That's all. So it clean up my work surface as well. Look at that. A little bit of hand sanitizer cleans it right up. Good as new. I'm a fan. Hand sanitizer works really well. Hi, Brenda. Oh, our Weimaraner was a Heptus and stitches. Oh my God. Weimaraners are amazing. They're very smart. Oh, that hand sanitizer works like, it's just great. All you need is a piece of paper towel or one of those microfiber cloths. It'll come right off. I clean stencils that way all the time. Damn, that coffee is hot. So, look at that. It's time to add a little bit of depth to these berries. I love this part because to me, this is where they just get, So you can use orange flame. You can use any nice rich orange that you want. Lately, one of my favorites is this one. It's Warm Sunset. I really love this color. And it really works well with that yellow. So, as to light source in this piece, our light source is right here. So our light is coming from the bottom up. So all of our berries are going to have their highlight side at the bottom, which means our colored side is going to be at the top. So I'm going to load my brush with Warm Sunset. I'm going to blend it out really well so that I have a nice transition of color. And we're going to shade the top of the berry with a float of Warm Sunset. I overblended it. I don't have enough paint in the brush. Here we go. So the top of the berry is getting that float of Warm Sunset. Just like that. C-shaped float. From about the middle to the middle. Middle over the top to the middle. So you get that nice, bright, orangey yellow. It's going to be a highly saturated orangey yellow. Just like that. I love these two colors together. That sunset gold, really highly saturated yellow. Yes, I do actually. I think it was from 2021. And it was a Santa. We did a Santa's base. I think one of the girls actually posted theirs on the group page today. I'm trying to remember. I think it was Robin Storm that did it. I think. Doesn't that, yeah, does give it a really nice glow. And that's that white base, then the yellow, and then the orange. That's what helps give you that really nice glow because you're not having to compete with that darker background. And so your berries have that nice sunny look to them. And I love that yellow showing through. What is the ETA for 12 Days of Christmas? The piece is almost finished. The surfaces have arrived. The stencils have arrived. So we're hoping to have them up this week. There's a bit of logistics involved in this one for us, but should have it up this week. I'm really enjoying the piece. I've already painted it once. Now I'm painting it for a second time just to make sure everything works the way I want it to. Yep. This little float, that simple little float, is semi-transparent. So because it's got that yellow underneath, you get all of that glow. Look at that glow. I love it. Oh yes, Marjorie, you are not alone, my dear. It happens to all of us at some point or another. Okay, for the 12 Days of Christmas this year, we are painting a sled. And the kit that we're putting together will have a printed copy of the pattern, full color. It'll have the sled, all of the embellishments, and I mean all of the embellishments. I'm taking a page out of my dear Sheila's book, and we're going to have everything in it. So any ribbon that is needed, any any little details that we're going to put into it, you're going to need it, plus the stencils, etc. So we're trying to put it all together. So everything is here. I just have to complete the pattern. The step outs are extensive, I will say that, because it's me. So the pattern is, I'm repainting it because I need to check on a few things. No sneak peek. You'll see it all when it's ready. So I'm hoping it'll be up this week. It's been in the planning stages for quite some time. So I'm excited about it. I really wanted to do a pretty piece. And so I've been working hard at it. And as I said, I took notes from my dear Sheila because she's brilliant. and, and I did get some really tremendous ideas and advice from her, so she's awesome. So look at our berries. How pretty are they? Yep, and we wanted to include the shipping as well, so it's, you know, a little bit of a logistics getting it all there. But yeah, I know I missed a berry. I missed all of these berries. Get this little one up here. I got talking. Didn't realize where I was. So consistently have that float at the top of every single berry. I love this color. Over top of that yellow, this warm sunset is just such a rich color. And it's also going to make the highlighting of this berry so much simpler. Oops. Last year we did the angels. And I really loved those. I still love them. I just think that's one of the prettiest patterns. But this year I wanted to do something a bit more, I think is the word I was looking for. I want to do something a bit more, over the top. So, look at how I love this. I love that, the heat that color combination generates. It's just such a pretty tone. So we're going to define these berries a little bit first before we do the highlighting. And we're going to do that with a float of thinned asphaltum. And I do mean thinned. We don't want to bury these. But that little float of thinned asphaltum just helps define these. So you just put a thin float of it right over top of that orange. It is a subtle change, but it is a change. Your berries just take on a little more dimension with that weak float. They stop looking flat. So as thin as the color is, it is an important layer over top of these beautiful colors. It's heavily thinned. You want to have some control over it. But look at the depth. It's a subtle shift, but it's there. But it just adds to that little extra dimension in those berries. It's just changing the depth of that color, the darkness of that color by a tiny bit, but it makes all the difference when it comes to that roundness, making them look round. So that little subtle float, look at that. So all of a sudden your berries have a little more dimension. I love it. The other thing that little float of asphaltum does is it balances the colors to the existing palette. So because we've used asphaltum in the background, we've used asphaltum throughout this piece, having that little bit of asphaltum in there sort of helps balance all of these colors and brings them all into line. Anytime you're painting something and something just doesn't seem to work right, try using a float of the asphaltum over top of it. You'd be amazed at how quickly it brings everything in. So now we can actually go in and add a highlight to our berries. And we're going to do that with a little bit of warm white. And it is, again, heavily thinned. It is not a glaring highlight. It's soft. And I like warm white for this because it's just a little bit brighter. Look at that. Tightly controlled, heavily thinned warm white. Take it right to the edge. Look what it does for that berry. It's a very soft float, so it just, your berry just takes on new life. And because our light source is coming from the bottom, all of a sudden our berries have more depth. And this is very nearly what completes that spherical look. You get that nice tight float. It's heavily thinned, so it's very transparent. It's essentially just changing the value of the yellow a little bit. It doesn't have to be an obvious highlight. And the warm white is in keeping with that yellow. It is a warmer tone, so it works very well with our yellow. Look at those berries. I love me a little bit of warm white. It doesn't take much. The nice part about working with a yellow is that using a white over top of it, it gives it a bit more amplitude. It brings out that yellow. Hi, Ivy. Welcome. We got crazy people. I think we all have a little bit of crazy in us. We have to. We wouldn't do this otherwise. Here we go. So there's that little float of warm white right along the bottom of the berry. I love what it does for this. These berries just become ultra round, spherical when you get that highlight in. And it is a soft float there. It's not a harsh float. Doesn't need to be. Look at that. Pretty berries. Now, because that light source is below here, you're going to do the same thing with this one. These ones down here, that highlight is again on the bottom of the berry. Just like so. Nice and soft. It's a weak float, doesn't have to be a strong one, doesn't have to be highly defined, but it is going to change the look of that berry drastically. So there's your little highlight. The other nice thing is, remember, using that shape makers, look how consistent these berries are. They're all the same size. Hi, Sandy. I love the fact that there is that continuity, that consistency in all of the berries. So there's our highlight. Now, each of these little berries has a small opening where the flower used to be. And it's a very tiny. You can do this with a liner, or you could do this with a gel pen. Hi, Karen. Linda's here. You can do it either way. Now, we're going to add another highlight or a light impact point to these berries as well. And that highlight is going right on our floated highlight, so you can see where that little dot is. We're going to do that with a little bit of warm white. So, ooh, way too much paint in my brush here. So it's just a tiny little dot, and it just indicates where that light source is. That's the light impact point. So I'm going to have that little dot at the bottom center of the berry. Just like so. So there's your light impact point. You're going to do that to all of these berries. They're all going to be at the bottom. Right in the center of that float. Just like that. Because our light source is from the bottom. Not for any particular reason, I just chose it, that's all. Now, there is a portion of this berry where the flower originated. So the portion of the berry where the flower had petals and whatnot. And we're going to put that in using a black gel pen, but I wanted to get this highlight in first because it's an important part of this. So there's that little highlight. Just a dot of warm white, small dot. Try not to overdo it because that would be me. I would be the one that way overdoes it. So I wanted to tell you that in the giveaway today is a great set of it's a drawing set from Tombow. It's a really nice set. Hey, Patrick. So there we go. So make sure that that is good and dry. There we are. So each of those berries, as I said, has that little spot where the petals used to be. So I want it to be more on the orange side. Let me show you. Do you see the little dimple? So on these ones, I'm going to put it here. So it's just a little curve. Like so. Tiny little line. You can do this with a gel pen or you can do it with a liner brush, a little bit of thin lamp black. It's just a little dimple. And each berry gets it. Just like that. Now, if you want to, you can put a little bit of detail into it with, 3 little hash marks coming out. Similar to a blueberry. I kind of like the little hash marks myself. I think that they work. They give the berry a little more substance. and a little texture. And it's a fun way to make these berries a little more realistic. So there we got those fun little berries. So you just continue to do that. Now I've got them going that direction on this side. I'm going to have them going in this direction on this side. Down and away. I like the little dimple. It just gives the berry a little more texture. Easy peasy. Et voilà. I like these little details, these simple little things. They don't seem all that important at the time, but they do make a difference in the end. I think it just helps lend a little more realism to things. As they say, the devil is in the details. Comme ça. And that's almost done. And then we're going to do some twigs, little branches to things. Just makes things look a little more realistic. There we go. And then, of course, we have to have a few little vines and tendrils. And we're going to work with a gold paint pen to put in a nice little border. I think what I like about this type of design is that it's easily adapted to almost anything. Because if you think about it in individual pieces, this would be a spray of berries, that would be a spray of berries, and so on. So it can be, if you need to, you can enlarge it to put it on a larger surface. You can stretch it out if you need it to fit a longer surface. It's an easily adapted design. You can manipulate this very, very easily. So our next step is to grab that liner brush. I'm going to use my 5-aught extra long detail liner because that's my go-to liner brush. And I'm going to use a little bit of that black green that we used for the shading on the leaves. And I'm going to mix a little bit of asphaltum with it. Just a little. You can use black green straight out of the bottle if you want to. I just want to add a little asphaltum. I'm a fan of asphaltum, so I use a lot of it. And we're going to just stroke in those stems. And it's fairly random. It isn't, don't worry if you're not connected to anything. The direction is more important than whether or not they actually connect to something. So just stroke in those stems with a little bit of that thinned black green. Now I'm using a little asphaltum with it, but black green by itself is just fine. And we're going to stroke in that stem. And we're going to do the same thing for the other side. There we go. I like the looseness of this. I really don't worry too much about whether or not everything is perfectly connected. Primarily because, honestly, it doesn't matter that much as long as there's some indication that they are connected somehow. So they don't have to be perfect. Which also means that not every single stem has to be there. They can be implied. So there we go. And We're going to do the same thing for these ones in the corner. As I said, they don't have to be actually connected. As long as they follow the branch, that's all that matters. So if they're not firmly connected, if the stem doesn't go right up and touch the berry, it's okay. As long as the direction is implied, I think is the most important thing. So there's our stem, little branch. And we are going to highlight these a little bit so that they stand out a bit more, because they do kind of disappear into that dark background. But otherwise, if we don't do that, what we end up with is a whole bunch of berries floating around and no stems. So that doesn't work. So to highlight, we're going to use a little bit of thinned margarita, that the highlight color that we used in the leaves. And we're going to, oh my goodness, got a tickle. I'm going to highlight the stem. Remember, our highlight is on the underside, right? And then we put a little vein on those leaves. So we get a little center vein on our leaves with that margarita. And the thing you have to remember when you're doing this is that our light source is coming from the bottom. So our highlights have to be on the underside of everything instead of on the top. So on the underside of those stems, just put a thin line of that margarita. Doesn't have to be perfect. Just enough to indicate that we have stems. You know? And we also, I didn't trace it in, but we have a vine. I like the little swirly vines. I think they're important. They keep the design nice and soft and delicate. So put your little vines in. Put your center veins in. Put your highlight on the underside of those twigs and branches. As I said, they don't have to be perfect, but they have to be there. Implied. So it gives them that look as if they are connected, even if they're not touching. Just like that. Now, you see where the two stems cross here? This is what I like to do. I'd like to take just a cluster of little strokes so that it looks like there's a string tying them. Super simple. Highlight the berry. Center vein. And again, remember what I said, light source is coming from the bottom. So our highlight on the stems is going to be on the underside of the stem. So simple, simple, simple. Just like that. And then got to have that vine. Got to have that little swirly vine. I love me some swirly vines. Look how pretty. Now there's nothing to stop you from putting in more. If you like more, put in more. Just like that. I'm a fan. I like my little fine vines. I like my little vines and tendrils. They make a big difference in a design. Keeps things from looking too static. Helps make things look soft. And so I gotta put in my vine This little bugger is hiding in behind the berries, so there we go. So if at any time you feel that you need another vine, go ahead and put one in. It doesn't have to be exactly the way the line drawing is. That's the thing. So I'm going to dry this really well because we've got ink on there and we've got, thinned paint on there. So make sure it's good and dry. Oh, thank you, Deb. That's a nice thing to say. This is such a simple design, but it's such an easy way to pull it all together, just using some stencils. The next thing we're going to do is our lettering, and then we're going to do a border. Super easy. So, there we go. I think that's nice and dry. I'm going to grab my newest Tombow eraser. This is called Dust Catch. This is an absolutely phenomenal eraser. It's black, one of my favorites. It works just like my Factus Black eraser and my Tombow gel. This one is phenomenal. If you're working with colored pencils, if you're working with pencils, graphite pencils, this one even picks up all that dust, the smudges and whatnot. This thing is just fabulous. And it works so well for removing graphite lines. Look at this. So this is when your piece starts to look more like a painted piece and less like a scribbled mess, is because you get to remove all of those graphite lines. And this does that without damaging the paint. Doesn't polish your background. But look at that. Got all those graphite lines off. So everything that you see in there is painted on highlight. This one is brand new. It's called Dust Catch from Tombow. I absolutely love this thing. I am including them in the giveaways. There is one of these in your giveaways today. Because I'm a fan of Tombow. But I am not a fan of encouraging people to try something that I haven't used myself. I don't do that. And I fell in love with Tombow products because I haven't found one yet that didn't just, hit it out of the park. It's like my Factus Black. I've been using Factus Black for years. I was reluctant to try anything else because it worked. And then Tombow comes along with a black eraser. Well, I had to try it. And I fell in love with the Knock eraser. I fell in love with the black soft plastic eraser because it does everything that my Factus Black does. And then this one comes along, and this one is freaking fabulous. And it does everything that my Factus Black does and more, which just makes it an even better thing as far as I'm concerned. So today's giveaway, I am putting one of these in there so you guys can try it out for yourself. It's an absolutely awesome eraser. Yeah, the best part is it doesn't hurt your paint. So, and you're not having to work hard either. That's the other thing. I'm not hammering away at this. This is a gentle rub, and it's taking off the graphite. It's not hurting all of that thinned paint that I used for line work. It's not smudging ink. It's not doing any of those nasty things that I don't want an eraser to do. And most importantly, it's not damaging my paint. It's not polishing anything. It's not leaving behind any residue. And I'm not having to really work hard to do it. So there it is. Look at that. Look at that. No graphite. No shiny spots. No wear spots. No damaged line work. Awesome eraser. Absolutely awesome. We will have some of these on the website. I haven't had a chance to get them up there yet, but we will have some on the website. But I am putting them in the giveaways this week as part of that Tombow drawing site. You're going to love these things. They're awesome. I'm of the opinion that I'm not going to tell you to try something if I haven't tried it myself. And I'm not going to get you to try something that I don't like. There's too much of that. And I don't put stuff on my website that I don't like, so there you go. So we're down to doing the lettering. I'm loving this part. So the brush I'm using for this one, Zero Rigger. That's the brush I'm using. This is a really fine script. So it has, we don't need a really big brush to do it in. And so this one is going to be a little fussy. But before we paint the lettering, we have to do a little bit of shading so that we get this lettering to stand up. So I'm using a little of soft black. Remember the color that we used around the background? I'm using a little bit of soft black. And we're going to float in and up against the lettering on the right side. So right up against that line, use the whole chisel edge of the brush. You see that angled shader? The whole chisel edge of that brush is on the surface. There we go. Same with the outside of this lettering. Whole chisel edge on the surface, right up against the edge. It is important to use the whole chisel edge of your brush so that you get a nice even float. You get that transition from darker to light. If you're just using the tip of the brush, then there's no point in floating. F word, yes. So, inside, up against, like that. So that little shadow on all of that side, although it's not a huge float, it's going to make that lettering stand out. It'll stand up. You'll be able to see it clearly. Even before I paint it, you'll be able to see it clearly. But that little float makes a world of difference. We can hear Maze and Airy running around upstairs. So there we go. So if I dry this, should be able to see that lettering pretty clearly. Renee's asking, do we have a troll?
Do we have a troll?
I don't know.
Where?
I don't know. You might have to scroll back.
How far?
I don't know. So that little float is what gives the lettering a little bit of elevation when we paint it in. So I'm going to give myself a clean palette here. This one is a bit messy. So the color I'm using is this little bit of warm white. I like to have that little float. There was one post all in Spanish there. That might have been the one they were talking about.
How is that a troll?
I don't know. I don't know what it said, so I wouldn't know.
There's no links in it?
No, okay. So I've thinned out a little bit of warm white, and I'm using a Zero Rigger. Now I'm going to tap my brush until it gives me that. You see, it's got a nice squared off edge. And I'm going to turn the brush at a 45-degree angle so that I have the chisel edge on. When I press down, didn't work. I didn't have enough liquid in the brush. Press down, open up so that it fills the space, and then come back up onto the chisel edge. I do not have enough liquid in my brush. There it is. Okay. What?
My feed caught up.
Oh.
Do you mix anything into the paint to get it to run smooth off your brush?
I do.
Water.
No. Juice on ya. Fast dry glaze. This is what I use. I use this instead of water. So whether I'm floating, whether I'm base coating, whether I'm thinning paint for line work, whether I'm thinning paint out for lettering, this is what I use. And there's a reason for it. When you mix water with paint, you are diluting the paint. When you mix a glaze with your paint, you're adding a thinner version of paint with no pigments or solids. And so the paint stays consistent. It stays with lots of pigment and all of the binders remain. So you have a much more durable finish in the end. When you add water to paint, you're separating the binders from everything. And we've all had it happen. When you go to erase graphite, you end up erasing all of the line work you did because there's nothing in the line work that will help bind that pigment to the surface because you've thinned it all away with water. Whereas when you're working with a glaze, like the Jo Sonja's Fast Dry Glaze, you're essentially using a thin version of a binder. So, once you have all of those areas, you can use the chisel edge of the brush to come back in and connect everything. Oops. Oh my goodness. Spit is a wonderful invention.
Didn't it just take your float with it?
Nope.
No?
Nope.
Float was dry?
Float was dry.
Yeah. That is a wonky W.
Where? It's not a W.
What?
It's an N and a V. The word is bienvenue.
Yeah, other one.
This one.
Yes.
It's just a script W. It's not wonky.
That's why I said it's a wonky W.
There we are. Better take care of mine than he does his. Truth. P.S. I don't know who you really are. Are we friends? Yes. Truth shall set you free as Lucy DeMatt. So yes, we are friends. Oh my goodness. There we go. Good grief. Apparently, I can't do that line today. So almost finished with this lettering. Then we're going to do our little gold border. There we go. What am I missing? I am missing the little dot over the eye. Et voila. Boop. Now, I'm going to dry this real quick. We're going to add a little shadow to the bottom of the lettering, just to give it a little visual weight. I like a little bit of visual weight. But I gotta make sure that paint's dry before I do it. Lori Newhouse, what is Tracy up to now? She took a hunk of board. Lori, that's sweet. Thank you. So, little float of asphaltum at the bottom of the lettering. Now, I know that everybody's first instinct is to just float all the way across, but let me show you a really easy way to do this.
Nobody here would know what that says.
Sure. Bienvenue, it means welcome in French. So at the bottom of each letter, you could pull a float, all the way across easily enough, but then you got to go back in and clean it up. So I use the chisel edge of my brush and I just curve in and tap. That's it. It doesn't have to be a perfect float. We just need to darken the bottom of the lettering a little bit. So you can do it this way.
I buy cheap brushes and paint on rocks.
I can't buy a cheap brush.
It's Renee. Yeah, I'm here. How are you and Puppy doing? Puppy's not a puppy no more.
No. Puppy is a maligator.
Yeah, she's in Velociraptor stage.
Yeah.
She goes from piranha.
Yeah. To Velociraptor.
To a dog.
Yeah.
I think I got another year of the Velociraptor.
Yeah. She's the sweetie though.
She loves to cuddle.
Yes, she does. She also likes to bite your ears.
She doesn't bite.
She bites mine. She likes to bite ears. Or lick them. Whatever. Okay, so we've got that just a little float. It's not much. Doesn't have to be much, but that little darkening at the bottom just gives it a little bit of weight so that it doesn't look like it's just floating around in the middle of it. Holy crap.
Here's Facebook.
Holy smokes. Guys, I just see all the Facebook stuff. I'm so sorry. If we've been asking questions and not getting a response, it's because we haven't been seeing them.
Just all showed up now.
It just showed up now. Wow. Talk about a blast of a feed. So, I'm going to put in a gold border. I'm going to use one of these gold paint pens. I just got one of these. This is a Pen Touch by Sakura. And I've been playing with this one, and it's a nice fine one, so it does really nice gold borders, and it has a true metallic look. I also got, I don't know where they went. I also have the metallics in the, what do you call them?
Is the dinner menu?
Oh, we're having penne brigate.
I like penne.
Yeah, Renee likes penne. I also got them. Oh, good gravy, Marie. Ta-da! Because it's Pascha, and I have to have everything Pascha because I'm obsessed. I really like this one too. This one has more of a true metallic, like a true metal look, which this really appealed to me. But I've also used this one, and it's not too bad either. I really like the point on this one, on the Posca. So these are the two. This one, I got the silver and the gold. I got them off of Amazon. They were actually not too bad. I think they were $12 or $13 for the pair. And I really like the Posca pens. But the Sakura, I got to tell you, I really like the tip on this one. I like the gold metallic. And this one has that true metallic look, which really appeals to me. So that's the one that I'm working. Now, the border that I put on, I came out... Don't worry about the border that's on the line drawing. I'm using about 1/2 inch in from the edge. And I'm going to use a steel ruler because plastic rulers suck. Sorry. Yeah, they do.
Just be blatant.
I can't find mine. There it is. Okay. So this is the ruler that I recommend if you're going to be using any type of metallic paint pen. And I like these. This is a staple 6-inch stainless steel ruler with a cork back. It needs to come off the surface a little bit to prevent it from bleeding underneath. If you can't find one with a cork back, tape a couple of pennies or a couple of nickels to the back of it. It'll give it enough height. And then that way, thank you. You're welcome, Kathy. I'm glad that you have them all. Somebody should join me. So I'm talking about 1/2 inch. I like about 1/2 inch. So I'm just going to put a little dot just so that I can see it. And about 1/2 inch. Doot, doot. And this is where we're going to draw our border. Now my border stops at the corner element and stops at the 1/2 inch line up here. So just below that. And then I want about 1/2 inch. Make sure they're straight and level. Straight and level is important. And then have it stop just before the greenery.
Oh. That's 200 stars.
I have no idea.
It's $2.
Nice. Thank you. Somebody said it's 200 stars. That's nice.
It's Caroline Newell.
Thank you, Harlan.
I just saw it on the mini feed. So.
Oh, okay. We haven't been seeing the feed. So if you've asked a question, sometimes it just takes it a while for it to catch up. Don't be afraid to ask away. So there's that little border. And then I'm going to do the same thing at the bottom. Kathy Sloan. Hello, my dear. Okay, I'm just trying to get that. Now the feed is moving like crazy. I'm glad you liked that, Kathy. It's a fun one to do. Now I'm going to do the same thing at the bottom. Give it about 1/2 inch from the edge. And I stop just shy of the design element. So a simple border, 1/2 inch, gives you that nice flash. I love that little sparkle that's in there. And it gives it a nice finish. Now, when it comes to finishing the edges and finishing the backs of things, I like to put a black on the back. Some people like stain. I prefer black. I find it just gives everything a nice uniform look. And then to finish the edges, I'm going to show you a little trick that I use. Because I'm obsessed with gold paint pens. This one is a Deco Color Premium. I love these because they come with that nice chunky chisel. And I like to take my gold paint pen and go along the edge like this. The nice part about this is that you can actually give a little bit of that gold to the front of the piece while you're doing this just by tipping the pen slightly. And it gives you a nice finished edge all the way around. And this is a great way to finish decorations like this one, but if you're doing ornaments, you want a nice elegant finish on your ornaments, this is a great way to do it. Just tip the pen towards the front a little bit, and it'll give you that nice, thin, consistent gold border all the way around. So it takes what would have otherwise been a really rustic piece up to a little more elegance. It's really pretty. So it fits that farmhouse look, fits that that home decor look, but it's not a difficult way to do it. Now the final touch to this, spatter it with a little bit of asphaltum or a little bit of thin warm white. Either or both. If you like it a lot of spatter, do it either way. I'm a fan of my asphaltum, just a little spatter. I'm also a fan of my warm whites, so I'm going to bring a little of that in. And just a light spatter. You don't need to have a ton of it. Just a light.
I have a suggestion to put on the back, but it's 2 words.
Oh. Go away. I know. I'm not saying that on here.
No, the other one. The more adult version of go away.
Okay.
But do it in that nice, pretty
Oh, yeah. Oh, my gosh.
That would be great to have on the back of it.
Yeah. I'd have to write it in French. And there we go. So, to finish this completely, I usually take it into the garage and hit it with 1 or 2 light coats of matte spray just to seal everything down, and then you can varnish it with your favorite varnish. But I happen to think that this is just such a pretty piece, and it looks so elegant when you put it in one of these little wrought iron stands. It's just so pretty. I love it. Look at that. Apparently there's a few people that like that.
Still elegant.
Yeah, it is.
And gets the point across.
It gets the point across. Yep. Writing it in an elegant font would be hilarious. Yes, I totally agree. I think it'd be an absolute scream.
That's something I would put on.
I like it. I think it's pretty.
It determines the mood of the household.
This is true. Very true.
Oh, I don't have a button for the wheel.
You don't have a button for the wheel?
No. Okay. I actually have to go here and click that.
Yeah, you put it in a wreath on a front door. It'd be really pretty. Either side. Oh my God, that would be hilarious. I had a friend of mine that was her biggest seller at a craft sale last year. She did scroll cutout Christmas ornaments that said that. It was hilarious.
People loved them.
Oh, they thought they were hilarious. I thought it was hilarious, but yeah. Yes, Deb, it would be nice on a round surface. That's the fun part about it, is that you could take that design and pull it apart. Because it's done essentially just in 4 simple pieces. So you could pull the design apart and then recreate it on almost any surface. That makes it very versatile. And the lettering is another one. You can enlarge it, reduce it however you want, put it on Christmas ornaments, put it on a larger sign if you want to. It's an easy pattern to adapt to almost any kind of surface. So if you do adapt it, please post a picture on the page. I would love to see it. Love to see it. So Renee has the wheel loaded up. How many names do we have on there today? 247. Wow. So just to reiterate, your giveaways this week, we have a set of Dynasty faux squirrel brushes. Nice little 3 brush set. And we have a Tombow drawing set. Plus, I'm going to put in one of those new erasers, the dust. You're going to love these, the dust catcher erasers. You're going to love them. Plus, we've got that great little create bag in there, and we usually fill it up with some other goodies as well. So,
Stole my sticky notes.
I'm sorry. So, Renee's going to hit the spin, shuffle it first, and hit spin. There we go. So, we got 3 names. If you put it on a square surface, would you put the berries on all of the corners? Donna Miller is our first winner. Suzanne, personally, I have a tendency to avoid doing everything in into perfect corners. I would select and do 3 corners, and then perhaps another design element using a stencil or just the gold border down into the corner. It makes things a bit more even or a bit more interesting if you avoid doing everything that is perfectly organized like that. They tend to be a bit static, whereas if you change it up a little bit, smaller designs in 2 corners and a larger element in 1 corner, and it just makes things more interesting, and it adds an element of elegance to it. I usually try to avoid doing things in all 4 corners, simply because it becomes very static and uninteresting, but 3 corners becomes a little more elegant. And away we go.
Too much symmetry.
Too much symmetry. Yep, there is such thing as too much symmetry. Carrie Siebold. Awesome, Carrie. That's a lot of names today. It's a lot of names. And we have one more.
These are names I recognize.
Yep.
I see on the Facebook chat and the YouTube chat.
Yep.
One more.
And the last one goes to
Carl Urban. No.
Carl Urban. Don't think so. Tara Ellis. Right on. So, to those of you who had your names drawn today, make sure you head over to the website, click on the little speech bubble in the lower right-hand corner of the screen, and send us your shipping information so that we can get your goodies out to you as soon as possible. We hang on to all of these goodies for up to 2 weeks. If we don't have your shipping information, we can't send it. So we only hold them for 2 weeks. And then if they're not claimed, we pop them back into the bin. And we'll probably end up using them for the 12 days of Christmas. We have lots of goodies coming in for that. Awesome. So thanks so much for joining us today for this bittersweet welcome. I absolutely love this piece. I just think it was simple and it's elegant and it's very pretty and it still has all those rustic elements that I really, really like. So as you do every Saturday, thank you so much for coming and joining us. We appreciate it. Hope you enjoyed today's live class. I certainly did. And we will see you next weekend. We're going to be doing a floral next weekend. I know we haven't done one in a while, like an actual floral. So we're going to be doing a floral next weekend. I think you're going to like this one. It has a festive bent to it for the Christmas holidays. Because, you know, October is coming to an end. Then it's November, and it's going to be all about Christmas. So getting ready for those holidays is going to be important. And we have a really pretty floral for you for next Saturday. So come and join us right here every Saturday, 12 noon Eastern Standard Time. Bring a friend. We'd love to have you join us. And many thanks to those who help us out with the giveaways. So got to say my thank yous to Tombow USA, to DecoArt, of course, and to Dynasty Brush. Many thanks there. And of course to my 3 best girls in this business, Sandy McTeer at Sandy McTeer Designs, Deb Antonick at paintingwithdeb.com, and my girl Sheila Landry at Sheila Landry Designs and decorativepaintingdesigns.com. So everybody have a great weekend. Mwah, we love you. Stay safe.
Pet your dog.
Pet your dog.
You gotta pet the dog.
Made me cough and laugh at the same time.
Ooh, that hurt.
Oh, yes, it did. Thanks so much.
You're welcome.
Mwah. Take care, guys.
That button.
Ugh.
You get